from nothing into the soil in the earth, breaking through the rocks, growing wide and tall till the buds begin to pop. So pack me in a bowl or roll me in a spliff. While you're breaking me down, you can feel your fingers stick.
Hey, this is Ryan Herron, cannabis writer and advocate from Portland, Oregon.
And I'm Amanda Breeze. I'm a cannabis reporter based out of Toronto.
And we're here today to talk about all the fun stuff around one of our favorite plants, cannabis. And continuing our series with kind of cool jobs in the industry, we've got Brave Green here today, a producer of fine craft cannabis and hash. And it was just, when we were putting together the list of people that we wanted to talk to in the industry, I had to reach out to what I would probably call my favorite cultivator here in Oregon and see if we could get him on. And he graciously said yes. So Brave, we're so stoked to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Amanda. I'm excited to be here. This is my first podcast.
Well, luckily, we've had several conversations before this, and I was like, you know what, this guy's going to be a natural and super effortless in talking about like what he does for a living and why it's important to him. So I thought you'd be a good dude to have on.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be pretty easy for me to talk cannabis because you know it's my life.
So I kind of put you in the category, we have a lot of cultivators here on the West Coast, and the folks that I like talking with the most and most importantly, like smoking their flower are kind of folks I refer to as like the old guy on the hill. And, you're not that old, you're not up on a hill, but you are one of those folks that like cares about craft in a way that I know that you're in there really getting into the garden and having like an intimate relationship with your flowers. And that carries all the way over to when you get a jar of your weed, and it's really enjoyable. So it's just like, since you're doing everything from basically seed to hash, it's like, who would be better to have on? Am I right?
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that so much. I think you're right.
Yeah, thanks, man. So let's kind of get started. Are you a native Oregonian?
No, actually, I grew up in the Central Valley, California, born and raised in Fresno, and went back and forth between Fresno and Santa Cruz, California. My parents lived in Fresno, and my grandpa lived in Santa Cruz. So I'd float back and forth, and yeah. But I planted my first seeds in Fresno, California.
Wow.
We'll say I was probably a freshman in high school. And, in Fresno, we would get a lot of good green Mexican bud, good red hair and stuff like that. So I'd pick out the seeds. And, I had this little special spot in my parents' backyard that had like this really cool sunroof. And, the sun would come through. Plus, they had these little lights. So I'd throw all my seeds out there and watch them sprout. Little by little, my dad would pick them out and pick the best ones and plant them himself. But yeah, that's where I got started, Fresno, California.
There you go. Run a little discreet tester garden. I like that.
Oh, it was fun. We did get a lot of good Mexican red hair. But by the end of my freshman year, it was all about the chronic. It was all about the green bud. It was all about the kind bud. And then, I would float up to Santa Cruz and I would go downtown. And this was back in the era where the Grateful Dead was still alive. We would have the Dead tours going on and all the Dead fans, Deadheads would be out downtown Santa Cruz and you'd be walking around. They'd be like, kind bud, green bud, So like as a 14-year-old kid, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I was like, yeah, let me get some of that green bud. Let me get some of that kind bud. And that's when I started learning about the good green with no seeds.
Man, can I just the terminology alone is really taking me back. We were talking about beasters before we got on, Canadian beasters, KBs,
Yep.
some kind bud. Like all of this stuff is like what we refer to as herb back in the day. And it hasn't really changed much.
Oh, they've got so many different names now. It's crazy, but and if it's not exotic,
Yes, the exotics. That's the hot thing right now. I love the diversity of flavors and smells. And that's why when I visited Oregon, I was so fucking wowed because there's just flavors and things I just had no idea were even possible. Like where weed has gone is just absolutely mind-blowing, even as someone who works in the industry and sees all the new stuff coming out. Like, it's just so next level right now what's coming out of Oregon. Are you like based out of Oregon right now? Is that where you are?
Yes, straight out of Kaiser, Oregon. And you're absolutely right about Oregon and Oregon strains. I tell you what, a lot of these craft farms and recreational farms and even the underground farms, they're on top of it. They're hunting for new strains every day, or they're creating their own new strains every day. It's pretty amazing here.
Yeah, the diversity is just absolutely next level. Have you noticed any trends this year?
The biggest trend that I've noticed probably the last few years is creating strains for ice water hash, creating strains that are good washers, but also are very high in terpenes. That has been very popular the last few years, and for good reason. Rosin has really spiked, especially in the Northwest. I would like to call Oregon the rosin capital of the United States. We're just definitely on top of it. Are a lot of high grade rosin producers that are growing mature flower and creating mature rosin. So it's pretty special here. And when I say mature rosin, it's something meaningful to me because that's where the real high grade comes from. When you have mature resin glands, that's how you make the best rosin and hash possible. That's what we definitely try to do here at Bravehearts. And I know a lot of the producers and hashers and hash makers in Oregon are definitely trying to do that. And in exchange, it also brings out the full terpenes of all these strains too. So you get the full experience, So when hash or rosin is made with, we would never buy premature flower. So we don't want to buy premature rosin or premature hash. With it, you get the full medicinal experience. You get the full cannabinoids, you get the full terpenes, and there's a huge difference. And I really, truly believe here in Oregon, we have a lot of integrity, and we have a lot of integrity growers and people with integrity making hash.
I love that. And it's something to consider as well. Like I've noticed a lot of like ancillary products also going with the more rosin based, moving away from distillates, for example, because people really want the full bodied flavor, but also kind of just like the whole plant. I hate to say medicine, but that whole plant experience that you get when you consume like you're saying, a mature product. That makes so much sense to me, and that's definitely slowly on the rise here, but I don't think we have the level of quality that you're describing where you're at all. Not yet.
Thank you.
I stick so closely to the Oregon market. I really don't see a lot of what's going on in other markets. So Amanda, is hash rosin really readily available? Can you just walk into any dispensary and pick some up?
Here, yeah, pretty. You can. A lot of brands are more reputable than others. There's this new product that came out this year that is called Sheesh. It's a hash soda, and I normally don't like high dose edibles because I don't like the effects. And I was so confused why I tried this, and I loved it. And I realized it's because they didn't use distillate. It's because they used the live hash rosin. So the effect for me was day and night. Even if it's the 10 milligram mark, I've been reborn. I'm on the team now. Like, I was never a concentrate person, but I've come around. There's just some really good products coming out. I'd like to hear more about these Braveheart products though. Like, I'm in Canada, so I'm outside the loop here.
Oh man. Well, you nailed it, Amanda. On top of like the quality of rosin here, the amount of products that are actually being made with rosin in Oregon now compared to distillate is pretty neck and neck, as to where, you would say a year or two ago, a lot of products were being made with distillate or BHO and rosin was down here. But little by little, especially because I believe that this is a true craft state, rosin and hash has been moving up and moving up because people have noticed the difference, just like you're saying. When you eat an edible made from rosin, the effect is totally different than when you have an edible from distillate.
So different.
And it's so different.
Yes.
So yes, and it's healthier for you. As an old school guy, and someone who's been around now for, say, 30 years, I do not believe that everything is taking out of BHO, and I definitely believe that there's good products out there, great BHO companies. Echo is one of them out here in Oregon. If you buy a gram of Echo butter or BHO, it's made very clean. The terpenes are great, but me personally, I don't believe all that stuff is taken out, and I maybe possibly believe that some too much of the right things are taken out making BHO and distillate. So when you get the full medicine effects from solventless hash and rosin made edibles, it's just a different ball game. It's more to nature.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so excellent in Oregon that the craft flower is being combined with these craft processes, and you're really ending up with a top tier product. Full stop. It's top tier.
Oh, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. The last few years, I've been consulting and helping build some really large grows, some high-tech stuff, all computerized. And, while I'm doing that and I'm working with some of these people, I don't feel the love that I grew up with when I was younger. And even up until today, there's just not the amount of love that you can put into a computer programming how much salt-fed chemical fertilizer is going into a plant. That doesn't excite me. The way that I believe it and the way that some of these programs and computer systems have been made has been from experiences from people like me that have been doing it for many years that know how to do it without the computers. I could read a plant and know exactly what it needs, or if it's been overwatered and that kind of stuff. So is what I've done the last few years is hustled, and I've saved my money, and I've worked very hard to build my own microcraft growery.
Wow.
And I did. I built a 18 light flower room. I've got a little section for veg, and I have my micro growery endorsement to make ice water hash and rosin. So I built this to where, I have an 18 light flower room, and I can feed organic, I can hand water, I can give every single plant the love that is needed to create true high-grade cannabis and true high-grade cannabis products. Because like Ryan said, the more love that you put into this cannabis, the more love that you put into the flowers and rosin, the more medicinal the effects are going to be to the consumer. And this isn't new. This has been going on for years and years. Everybody knows when you smoke a good high-grade organic flower grown with love, you're going to be giggly high for an hour or two instead of smoking that salt-based weed and wanting to smoke every 10 minutes. And I'm excited to be here in the Oregon craft market with the other groweries and have the same mindset because there are quite a few of us. And I really believe the microcraft growery here in Oregon is taking the lead in the United States.
Arguably the world. I just want to put that out there because I've been to a lot of places, and Oregon blew my mind. Absolutely blew me away with what I saw.
It's a unique microcosm because we have all of these people who, going back to legacy days, have had a lot invested in this, right? Going back for generations, there's ego, there's pride, there's also just putting food on the table. Like, this plant can do all of those things. And if you really invest your energy into it, that's something that people that haven't even met you can smoke your flower or open a gram of your rosin on the bus and everybody's heads turn. and then now you're sharing that with everybody, which is a really cool way to share your craft, right? And we have that on such a small level here that...
Yep.
It's still, like you said, 18 lights. It's still really hard to buy your flower. It's even harder to buy the rosin. You have to go and search it out. And so just that level of competition that you can be on with a small ship, with a small grow, it really elevates anyone who wants to really put the elbow grease in to produce some really great stuff that's worth talking about. So I think that's hard to do in many, many other states. So Oregon is unique in that way.
You're absolutely right. And now, to go back to the first question from Amanda is, how long have I been in Oregon? Well, I started off in California, but I've been in Oregon for 21 years now. And I've raised 3 sons. I've got one son that's going to Willamette University on scholarship. And I've got another son in high school and another son in elementary school. Very strong family, man. One of the reasons why I took my cannabis skills, though, from California to Oregon was because when I was younger, when I lived in California and we were smoking and growing, we always admired and looked up to the breeders here in Oregon. DJ Short was a very strong influence in my life and into many people's lives in the cannabis community that are hardcore true growers. And I'll take this second right now to just give DJ Short his love and a lot of the other breeders that come from that era and that era even before. A lot of the strains that we have today have DJ Short's genetics in them. I hear a lot of this stuff about culture here, culture there, IC mag this, IC mag that. This stuff didn't start on the internet. This stuff started way back in the day. And I just want to make sure that the right people are getting the right respect and thank yous and acknowledge the true history of cannabis. When the early 1900s, we still had outlaws growing cannabis. Yeah, we brought cannabis in from Mexico and everywhere else, but we still had outlaw breeders and we still had outlaw growers here in America on the West Coast and possibly other places, but the West Coast was dominant. If it wasn't for those people, 50s and the 60s, the old hippies wouldn't have had all that great weed, because there was great weed. It wasn't just Thai or Mexican and all this other stuff. So those guys doing what they did made it happen for all of us in the late 80s and 90s. And, without that culture and without DJ Short and a lot of the other breeders, these strains that we have today would not be in existence. So I just want to give the props to all those underground breeders, underground growers from all those years, and let the younger generation know this didn't just start yesterday. There's a lot of history involved. We need to respect it and give thanks to all these people that came before us. Thank you, DJ Short.
Hell yes. That's so true.
Sorry, guys. I'm very passionate about a lot of this stuff.
Oh, we're here for it, man. So are we. So you're in the right place.
Yes. And I love that you used the term outlaws because that is just sums it up so perfectly. We have generations of people who are growing this plant outside of the law because of the unlawful drug war on cannabis and cannabis consumption. And
yes,
so many times they've been referred to throughout history as criminals. But it's like, no, proud outlaws. This is unjust. And they pushed it forward. And now here we are on a podcast talking about weed so openly for everyone to hear. And if it wasn't for that legacy, none of us would be here today. Yeah.
Amen, Amanda. Oh, definitely, dude. I'm a proud legacy outlaw cannabis grower. Give a lot of my respect to the people that came before me because I wouldn't be here without them. And, it even goes further, my rosin jars are black and I just have my logo on it because I wanted my first drop to be an ode to the black market because none of us would be here, like we said, without it.
Chills. That's awesome. That's seriously awesome. Do you still get spooked when you hear helicopters?
Oh, no. I'll tell you a story. I was probably only 17 years old, and I spent a lot of time in the summers in Oregon, because I spent time in Oregon even when I was a kid. I had family and friends that live up here in Eugene. Oh, I don't tell this story too often, but we had a guerrilla grow out in Cottage Grove deep down, and we would have to get all camo geared up, and we'd run out there in our camo gear, and we'd stop from one tree and hide, and then go to another tree, and we would hide, and then we'd be looking up for helicopters. And one time this helicopter kind of went over us and we thought he saw it. And we were already out there pulling up all of our Trinity roadkill skunk clones that were all flowered and nice. There was probably 100 of them in this area. And we prepped him up and grabbed him as fast as we could. And we ran out of there back to our car hidden. But I'll tell you what, my heart was pounding out my chest. It was one of those experiences that I'll never forget. But no more helicopters.
Now, by your standards, was the weed any good?
Oh, the weed was so good. It was so good. I'll be honest with you. It was really good. It was one of those years where we didn't get very much rain. I would die for it. One thing that does get me, and it doesn't matter where I'm at, is if I hear a car door. So like even if I'm at home and I'm sitting on my couch and I hear a car door slam, I pop up right away and I got to look out the window. That'll probably never go away.
Honestly, for me, it is the helicopters, and it's insane because I haven't been on a black market farm in years. Like, time has passed. But just the other day, I'm in downtown Toronto. I'm not even doing anything wrong. I'm just going for a little walk. Heard the helicopter. I ducked. Like, I was like, I'm ready. I got the fear in me. So that's my car door. Is the helicopter.
They're not gonna steal your vape pen or joint, Amanda. I promise. I promise. They won't.
Yeah. In fact, I was smoking on the corner of the gym the other day, and a police officer turns the corner and sees me, and then locks eyes with me. And I'm a white guy in Portland. I have carte blanche to smoke anywhere, so I usually don't stress about it. But he did just lock eyes with me, and he goes, "Hey, dude, have a nice afternoon." And I was like, okay, yeah, there's a good reason I'm out here is because I can pretty much get away with just enjoying weed anywhere. So I do enjoy that as well.
Oh, man.
So I'm sorry that you guys have literal PTSD because I'm just out here blowing smoke in cops' faces.
Oh, man. Oh, I know. I was in Portland the other day, and this girl, I was going to somewhere PDX. Have you ever been there in Northwest Portland? It's a just really nice dispensary. And
great spot. When I saw you made a drop there, I was really stoked about it. Yeah.
Oh, man. It was right up my alley, all organic. You walk in, they've got succulent plants for sale, indoor house plants for sale. I was blown away. I loved it. But anyways, I was going in, and a girl comes walking down with a joint in her hand, walking down the sidewalk. Is all I could do is smile.
Yeah, in a very bougie part of town, too.
Oh, very bougie. I love it. I loved it.
I think it's great you brought up Somewhere because that was one of the hot spots that I really wanted to check out when I was in Portland because we've talked about it on the podcast before.
I think you'll like it. And they carry my rosin too, so.
Oh, nice.
All the more reason to stop there for sure. Yeah, I'll call out Alicia at Cheechable because I said, hey, I stopped at this really great dispensary called Somewhere. It's like half plant shop, half weed shop. Why haven't I heard about this place? And she was like, I've literally told you about that place several times, but its name is Somewhere. And so you just glaze over and it bounced right off you. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, the name is so unusual. I had to look it up like 2 or 3 times just to make sure it was a dispensary. But yeah, it's a good one. I want to thank you, though, Ryan, for inviting me on this podcast. I've been asked many times to do podcasts over the years, and I've turned them down. And I think it goes back to the black market days. A lot of us black market guys, we don't take pictures. We don't brag or talk. It just kind of carried me over. But we're in 2023, and I was like, it's about time we do a podcast. And there was no one better than with you, Ryan. And knowing you for so many years and knowing how strong of a craft supporter you are. I remember the medical days when you were a huge supporter of the Star Killer OG that I used to grow. And
oh, yeah.
And I just want to say thank you, Ryan. You're a really important person to me.
Oh, likewise, man. It's so great to just see your work and to have gotten some behind the scenes and see where you do your work, and that energy really carries through to the flower and everything. And Amanda and I know a lot of cultivators. We have close friends that we could have on the podcast and talk to, but I really felt like if we're gonna have somebody on for this season, it should be somebody who's really doing it at the highest tier. You can just have an anonymous sample of your flower and just know that something special is coming off of it. And this has been proven many times. This dude has won many awards going back to the Secret Sesh days. And so when did you start to feel like you had a product that was worth showing off and kind of yelling about?
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, I've won many awards. A lot of them I'm really proud of, especially the 2013 Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards, highest potency. That was very special to me. I sit here and reflect on some of this stuff. I couldn't do it without my family. My family has been a huge supporter. My wife, my children have been a huge supporter of what I do. And it hasn't always been easy on the family. But I'm pretty excited this year, though. Over the last few years, I haven't entered too many competitions, but I've been head judge for the Leaf Bowl and the Oregon Growers Cup. And I've been able to be that old school grower that these companies, the black market growers, the rec growers, can count on to give a fair judgment of great flower. Because being a competition grower, that's what I was. And it's not really talked about very often, but through the early 2000s, there was a group of us. We were considered competition growers. Everything that we did had to be super precise in our grows. You know, Corey Buffkin, we're talking Fletcher from Archive, and there's quite a few others. Being a competition grower, going through and really trying to enter these cups multiple times per year and traveling, really teaches you what high grade cannabis cup winning flower should look like, what it should smell like, what it should taste like. And if it doesn't have the full package, it most likely won't win. But that doesn't mean that when you enter these competitions that your flower is not good. You just have to keep practicing, and you got to come with your A game, and you got to come with that true competition mode. As competition growers, you know, we don't take it lightly. So we're preparing a year in advance for a competition. We're going through strains. We're figuring out how it grows best. We're looking at it, how it trims best. What fertilizer, organic fertilizer programs, or what other fertilizer programs make it smell the best. You know, there's a lot that goes into this. So I take a lot of pride in being that judge that Oregon can actually count on and trust and look up to make the right decisions in these competitions.
So how do you decide when to stick with the methodology you've used and maybe dial it in or back or a couple days before or after, whatever, versus trying some new thing? I would be such a slave to being like, well, I got LEDs this round, and oh, this round I'm switching to 5 gallons. And
Yep.
I mean, I'm just, I shoot myself in both feet every project because I want to try all the new stuff. So how do you not do that?
You know, being a competition grower or a really good high grade grower is having confidence in yourself and having confidence in what you're doing. And that all comes from experience and making mistakes. I was growing for 15 years before I even entered a competition. You gain this knowledge and you gain this confidence by failing crops. You gain this confidence by not giving up. Keep going. If I stopped the first time I had mites, you know, I tell the young growers, learn and figure it out what's wrong first and then move on. Don't just, oh, this guy's using LEDs, I'm going to use LEDs. You know, you need to learn the plant. You need to learn what you're doing first, make those mistakes, try to rebound from those mistakes, and then move on. And study. There's a lot of really good information. Back in my day, you couldn't Google how to do this or what happened with that. It took years to gain information. Today, you can Google search this stuff and kind of try to understand it and learn a little bit quicker. But yeah, I think people change up their programs too fast these days. And I feel bad for all the people that jumped into like Athena nutrients and then were like, oh man, my stuff tastes funny. Or it's like, yeah, well, you're using cheap salt nutrients. That's just my thought.
Well, and I love that you mentioned in the beginning about having all these sort of AIs and computers that are doing all the work for you, and they can't taste that difference. You know, you really do need a person with experience running the show, because these are the things that you spent years cultivating, this ability to taste that difference and see that difference. And I love that you mentioned, you know, in a competition, how you want to trim it. Like, there's so many moments where you can really change the entire outcome, from your fertilizer to how you take off the leaves. And that's really what makes a quality product. That's what brings cannabis into the luxury market.
Oh, you're right. And to go back on that, so like, in a competition, I could see the most perfect flower. This flower is so perfect. It has the terps. It has the medicinal high. It's got everything. But if they would have took a little bit more time to trim it like they loved it, like this bud was going to help them win this competition and it would help their family, If they took that little bit more energy into that, they would win. That's what I'm saying. Like, as being a true competition grower, you got to know these things.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you would judge the aromatics? Like, how are you judging the smell? Is it the strength of the pungency? Is it specific points? Like, what are you looking for when it comes to smells in the weed?
Judging based off terpenes is huge, because when a flower is grown right, the terpenes are going to be loud. It's also genetics and everything like that too. But if you're putting in this flower for a competition, it should be loud. It should be very loud. And when I take a bud, I'm going to break it open. I'm going to squeeze it so that I can get the true terpenes out of it. I want to know if that terpene is going to enhance the medicinal value, and I want to know if it's going to enhance this flower. And I keep a little thing of coffee beans next to me, just like if I was judging chocolate. I keep my coffee beans next to me, and I have 3 different utensils plus a joint right there ready to go. You know, I might have 2 different bongs because I want to try a different flow. So I try all 3. If it expands and hits my tongue and I still taste it 15 minutes later, that's a winner. If it's something that I taste and I smoke out of my utensils and it's not right, or it doesn't burn right, or if it doesn't taste, I want to brush my teeth, smell as many coffee beans as I can, and I want to get that out of my system.
Wow.
So I'm noticing when I'm grabbing some herb and I'm going to smell it or observe it, I'm really just going for, the novel moment. What is this doing in the moment that I'm smelling it? Am I enjoying it? Am I really connecting with this? Whatever. And then it's kind of like, okay, on to the next one. I think it's interesting that for you in selecting your own flower, and then also as a judge saying, okay, does this thing cut through all the other noise? 15 minutes from now, am I still tasting it? Half an hour from now, am I still thinking about it? Like, that is some real winning herb. Meanwhile, I'm pretty satisfied with having some golden ticket and going, some limey terps, and that was really nice joint, and move on with my day. But then when I get some hash burger or something that is greasy and resinous and it's still on my hands an hour later, that's the stuff that really cuts through all the rest of the noise, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And like when I'm breaking it up, I'm also like, when it's loud, I'm looking for the myrcene, I'm looking for linalool, I'm looking for limonene, pinene, I'm looking for these terpenes and how pronounced they are. Because there's a lot of strains out there where sometimes people will enter competitions and they're like, oh, this is very loud, it's very loud, but some of them are light. It's like, we don't want light. Even though it does have linalool or limonene and all that, it's light. We want that loud. So take your time in entering these competitions. If it takes a year to find that, that's what you want to enter. I'll give you an instance right now with something I'm kind of excited about. I did this breeding project about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, actually. And I'm just now finding one strain that I'm very excited about. Not the strain, but the pheno.
Yeah.
And so it's taken me that long to find this pheno. Now I'm going to take this pheno and I'm going to run it, and I'm going to try to run it the best that I can. And I might have to run it a couple times, but I know that I'm going to enter this strain in rosin competition eventually. That's how long it took me to find this terpene that I was like, that's competition worthy.
Wow.
So how are you observing along the way? Like, is this going to wash? Is this actually going to be worthwhile of making some hash? Or do you not care if the yield is so small that it's just like, well, it's for the sake of the terps?
Well, I definitely breed strains trying to make them washers, but I'm breeding them to try to be loud like we're talking. I want those terpenes to be loud. But not only that, I'm breeding for stability too. Like, I do love flower. I'm a huge flower guy. So when I'm doing my breeding, I'm looking for all of the above. I'm looking for good washing. I'm looking for the medicinal effects and the terpenes. Back to what you were asking, Ryan, if I was going to enter a competition and doing a wash, it doesn't matter. So if the yield is 1% and I've got the best rosin in the world, I want to enter that rosin.
Oh, this is music to my ears.
Most definitely. Something I'm really excited about right now is the Scooby Snacks times Triple Burger. So the latest cross I did, I've done quite a few over the years, but the last breeding project, I did it specifically for Washington. So, over the years, I've been a huge GMO fan. I really love Chem D. I love the garlic funk, and I love how it washes so well. But I'm not huge into doing feminized seeds or creating the female to become a male and spraying it down with hormones. There's some very respectful breeders out there, and Skunk House had worked a project, and he basically took the GMO and did a GMO BX3. So when I saw this, it got me very excited, and I bought like 4 packs of seeds, flowered up all the males, and my son and I we flowered out all these males. We're talking like 40-something males, and what? I selected 2 of them after watching them flower, the whole process, so you got to watch these things, and I judged and I selected these males. Then you have to clone those, keep your males, and then, you gather all your females that are your favorite females, and then I pollinated them. I still took all the necessary steps to do it correctly, but with that triple burger and that GMO going into all my favorite strains, I knew that I would be able to create some really good washers out of them. And they have. Excited to put out the Steamer Lane in January. It's going to blow some minds. I promise you, Ryan.
What's it called?
Steamer Lane. It's named after a world famous Santa surf spot where they hold competition surfing at. It's called Steamer Lane. It's a very beautiful place in Santa Cruz, California. And it's basically a papaya times triple burger. But the marriage between the two is very special. You don't get very much burger, but you get this full gas with this permanent marker, candy, really loud funk. It's very, very special. Oregon's just going to love it.
Wow.
Man, I'm such a sucker for your strain selections. And especially with the Scooby Snacks mixed in there, I'm just really incredibly stoked for all of these flavors. I like to tell the story about when I first found GMO, like starting to hit shelves, starting to show up in gardens. I thought I need to enjoy as much of this as I can. It's going to be out of here in like 3 months once everybody like gets over the novelty of this. So the fact that it kind of like connects into so many people's hash programs, and it carries that loudness, almost whatever you put on it, if you get lucky. I'm so stoked to still have it around, and to see you, sir, truly finessing this profile. I'm just really stoked for January and everything else leading up to it.
Just wait for the Scooby Snacks times triple burger. Yeah, it's gas on gas on gas, Ryan. It's your favorite, bro. And
it truly is.
Roots Rosin did a great job pheno hunting this selection, and I've handed out seeds to a few really top-notch Oregon growers like Bo's Nose, Benson Arbor, U Green, and we'll be seeing a lot of these strains. I'll get you some of that Scooby Snacks times triple burger. You'll be in love.
You just let me know. I will drive.
Come down to DFO on
the
DFO event November 11th. I got you.
All right, it's going in my calendar right now. I'm really stoked, man. It seems like now that you've got these kind of a direction you're headed, this very specific project, everything that you've been breeding these last few years, really. So you have probably more seeds than you know what to deal with. Do you still have that wandering eye for other genetics or other things that other people are doing? Or are you bringing anything into your garden that you didn't pop yourself at this point?
I'm really working hard on my own projects. But I always have a wandering eye. I always am looking out for something great that public would love or that I would love, because I know if I would love it, then I know that most of the public would love it. Because I'm not, I love gas strains. I love candy strains. I love OG. I love them all, but they just have to come correct. So I don't just try to keep a single palette. I truly do. I truly love them all. I do. I love the candy strains as long as they come with that sharpness in it and that loudness that we keep talking about. I love the Kimmy. I love the gas. I love the OG. I love the fuel. As long as they all come correct. I do. I always keep a wandering eye out there because I do want to bring the best to the community for the culture. Because that's what I do here with such a small grow is I'm basically trying to take care of the culture and the community that appreciates it. So if it's not my own strain, I'll bring it.
I'd love to hear that, man.
But right now, I will tell you, I am a little excited about one strain. I'm good friends with Josh DOG down in Southern California, and he gifted me his personal cut of Josh D times Skittles called Shaloa. And I'll be bringing that to the market in January in flower form as well. Yep.
Okay, so I need to come back to the West Coast in January. There's a lot going on here. This is exciting.
We will talk offline. Some we've already been talking about. So hey, all of this might line up in a way that we need it to.
Yeah.
So how do you narrow down what goes into your room since you have limited space?
Oh, it's back to that competition grower status. It has to hit all the marks. If it checks all the marks, it's coming in. If it doesn't, it's not coming in. This year, I do have a small space, so pheno hunting has been kind of limited, but we still get it done. And I'm also been talking about collaborating with some other organic rec farmers as well, Nelson and Company being one of them. And Greg and I are pretty excited to work together. And this year, I'm going to be popping a lot of new seeds, and him and I will be selecting together, which is I'm real excited about because he's been a good friend of mine over the years, someone that we're close in age, we understand each other, and I also look up to him. He's a great man.
Yeah, we'll have to think about having Greg on someday. He's definitely got a great point of view, and he's one of these kind of old man on the hill types that I can't shut up about.
And it truly brings me great joy that there are still people like yourself in the industry holding it down and really trying to push flavors while keeping the traditional grow style alive. Like it actually brings me joy because I love weed too so much and I love the culture. And it's just so nice to hear that we're still out there and you're doing it.
Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, we're not all greedy. There's a lot of greedy ones out there that are in this business for the wrong reasons. And if you're in it for money, you're in it for the wrong reason. But the true love, people can feel it. People understand it. When I do my own vendor days, I go out and I shake people's hands and I shake the bud tenders' hands and I thank them. I want them to feel the passion that I have for and love for this plant. And I want them to see the difference, and I want to educate the difference that, that corporate cannabis might be here right now, but it's not king. Craft cannabis will always be king.
Yeah, it's fun. They say, good dope sells itself, which we all know to be true, but good brands also build themselves. And I think that's what Brave has done this whole time, going back 10 years with the hand labeled jars and the extra attention paid to every detail. And then that carries over. Here we are 10 years down the road. A lot of people have fallen off in that 10 years. A lot of people have fallen off. And the Brave weed is better than ever. And so it's one of those things that if you're a flavor chaser and you find yourself over here on the West Coast, it's worth going a little out of your way to track some down for sure, man. So we're looking forward to these upcoming drops. But if you could let us know where to get any of the stuff or even just to find you on Instagram, let us know.
So if you're looking for high grade craft cannabis and you want integrity from the grower and you want to know that you're purchasing something that was grown and made with love from beginning to end, you want to give my family a try. I have no investors, no partners. I'm all independent. Instead of helping an out-of-state company or where the money goes out of state or some corporate company where some rich investor is getting richer, give my brand a shot. Give Bravehearts a shot. I promise I won't let you down. I work 24/7 for my family. I love this plant, and I'm here for the culture, and I'm here for the community, and I won't stop.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast today and sharing such an authentic story and brand. Like, genuinely, it's a pleasure to hear about all of this.
You're welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ryan.
We were so lucky to have you on today, man. Glad to like kind of chop it up. I feel like we barely even got into your history with the plant. So, hey, we'll have to have a little tasting sesh when some of these other flavors are up, and we can get Amanda in town. But really love having you on the show today, man. You can find Braveheart's stuff on Instagram at Bravehearts underline PR. You can find us at the.smoking spot. Go ahead and track down Amanda and I there. We're all over Instagram. Any questions that you guys have or anybody you'd like to see on the show, reach out. We always love hearing from you guys. And we'll be back next week with more craft cannabis.
Said no matter what kind of pain and anguish life may bring you, oh, smoke it up, hold it down, and don't ever stop. Well, you can always find your smoking spot. Yeah, you can always find your smoking spot.
Hey, Smoking Spot fans! We're here to tell you about the newest launch from Centelligence Projects.
Over the last year, we've created the Cannabis Aroma Wheel. It's a sensory tool designed to help connoisseurs take their knowledge to the next level. So whether you're a bud tender, dispensary owner, cultivator, or you just love the smell of weed, you can better appreciate the cannabis in front of you.
Get your copy of the most detailed sensory tool built specifically for the cannabis industry and order your Cannabis Aroma Wheel today at centelligenceproject.com.